In this episode, I'll be sharing more about my single and solo parent story and the important changes I had to make so that I could finally manifest the life I'd always dreamed of. So let's get started. Hi, I'm Katie, and after many years as a struggling single mum, I transformed into a highly successful manifestor with multiple businesses, better relationships, financial abundance, and way more peace, joy, and happiness in my life. Each week, I share the real secrets around how to manifest successfully, as well as the amazing and sometimes crazy lessons I've learned along the way, so that you can apply it all to your own manifesting, transforming your life from the inside out. This is That Manifesting Podcast. Welcome back to another episode of That Manifesting Podcast. So you may have stumbled across this podcast, or you might have been following me for a while on social media. But either way, I wanted to do an episode that really shared more of my story, not in a braggy way, but more to help you get to know me a bit more. If you're joining me every week, I think it's important that I show all sides of my personality, my journey, but also what can be possible if you work effectively and intentionally with your manifesting abilities. It's also my hope that through what you hear today, you'll be able to use that and take control of your manifesting a lot faster than I did. So I guess a good place to start is why I became a manifesting mentor, and I guess why I started this podcast. I want to help the version of me from well over 10 years ago, when I was just starting out on my manifesting journey, after reaching a point in life where I just knew things had to change. I'd become a single mum to my daughter when she was 2. I'd always been that person that hoped marriage would last forever. I'd come from a broken home myself, so I really hoped when I got married it would last forever, but it didn't. My daughter was 2 when we split up. She's now 20, so long time ago. But those early years as a single parent were really tough. You know, I had so many problems with my self-confidence, a severe lack of it. I was paranoid about doing a good job as a single mum, and I never really did anything for myself. My self-confidence was to the point where when I was first single, I had to get my mum to look after my daughter when I went food shopping because I was too afraid to take her on my own. I thought something was going to go wrong, or I don't know, maybe she'd fall out of a trolley or something. But I really struggled initially. And I was so aware that society said that single mums created and brought up children that were never destined to do anything decent in life. And that really struggled. That was a real struggle for me. So at the time, I'd have described myself as, a struggling but hardworking, loving single mum. Nothing that I ever really wanted happened. And in some cases, the exact opposite would happen. And that was no matter what I tried to do. There was always something, it felt, that blocked my progress, or it set me back. I would always go into every situation, whether it was in work or whether it was at home, and I would just have at the core of me this feeling that it wasn't going to go the way I wanted it to. Something was going to happen that meant that this turned into a negative situation. And I think that life of difficulty, pain and uncertainty, that felt like it was a struggle that most single parents were conditioned to. And I think that was thanks to the media. I've always been a big TV and film buff, and when I watched different serial dramas or movies, the single parent was always struggling. They were always struggling with money or work, or they couldn't find love, or their kids were absolute horrors. I never remember watching anything where single parent life was seen as something to aspire to or something to be proud of. So I think that supported my belief that maybe life wasn't going to turn out the way I wanted it to back then. I think I just thought that nothing would ever change. But what I then discovered years later, that this was me living my life as an unaware manifestor. And so I want to talk to you a bit now about what it means to be an unaware manifestor and how you might spot that you're one too. So an unaware manifestor, it's someone who hasn't yet learnt, or they choose not to take control of their manifesting. They're those people that are like, oh, what will be kind of people. That's how you can spot an unaware manifestor from a mile off. They are that you ask them about anything and they say, what will be. And that was my mantra a lot of the time. Back when my daughter was small, I would think about maybe finding a new relationship and I'd always think, what'll be will be. And of course it never was, because I wasn't taking control of my manifesting. The unaware manifestors, they let their thoughts, their beliefs and their emotions just run wild. And they're usually glass half empty people. And that was me in a nutshell. I was driven by emotion, not always good emotion. I would wake up and if something would happen in the morning that wasn't quite right, that would determine my mood for the rest of the day. I was just a slave to my emotions. And as I said, everything was glass half empty with me. Even if something good happened, I was always waiting for, okay, when's it going to go wrong? I always wish that the person I am today could go back to the person I was back then and, I don't know, give myself a hug or maybe a massive kick up the arse. I can look back now and see that I had so much potential, but I just couldn't see it at the time. And I certainly didn't believe it. And I think that's probably one of my biggest, maybe even a regret. I don't know if regret's too strong a word, because I've ended up here. I just wish it hadn't taken me so long. But it is a lot of what fuels me to do the work I do now, through the podcast, through my social media, through my Create Academy. It's really because I don't want anyone else to have to wait as long as I did to achieve the life that they were really born to do and born to live. So if any of this is maybe resonating with you, then what I want to do is just go a little bit deeper with what I experienced as the unaware manifestor. So just so that you can recognize any similarities. But just before I do that, the one thing I really want to say is please don't worry if you do resonate with any of this. It's actually a really positive thing, because as I said, the sooner you know you're an unaware manifestor, the sooner you can start to take steps to transform. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through 10 things that I experienced as an unaware manifestor, so you can see if any or all of them are present in your life, and maybe giving you a clue that you're currently operating as an unaware manifestor, where you're just letting things happen rather than taking control of your manifesting. So the first one is I felt like bad things always happened to me. And I also felt like everything that I wanted was what someone else got, never me. A really small example of this was I used to work in a corporate office job, and there was this girl. And whenever they had like competitions or raffles or anything, quizzes, she won everything. And I mean everything. Whatever was going on, she won it. And so it got to the point where I didn't even want to take part in things anymore. I am naturally competitive, but I didn't want to take part because I'd look at her and think, you're going to win. And that's really going to piss me off. So I would just rather not play the game. So yeah, I just always felt like someone else would always get what I wanted. And as I said before, I'd go into every situation thinking glass half empty rather than glass half full. So that's number one. The second one is I often felt like I just wanted to lay in bed all day and watch TV rather than facing the world. And of course I couldn't do that because I had my daughter. But it was that feeling, when sometimes you wake up in the morning and you think, I'd really like a lay-in today. I just want to chill out. And that's great because I think that's a prompt from your higher self telling you need to relax. This was something different. This was literally, I wanted to just pull the covers over my head and just stay in bed, just laze about rather than facing things that were going on in my life. What I did find was when I watched movies and TV shows, I kind of wish I'd had that life. I had the life of maybe the main character, obviously not in things like murder documentaries, absolutely not. But if it was, say, I don't know, Love Actually, I love that film, but I used to watch it a lot. And then I'd end up crying and thinking, I wish someone loved me like that. And that was what I spent a lot of my time doing, just wishing that I had somebody else's life rather than seeing what I could do with my own. The third one was I'd always try so hard to be positive, but little things would set me back. And I'd always then go back to thinking that this was the life I was destined to live. So I'd get that little glimmer of hope and think things are about to change, things are going to be great. And I could suffer just the most minor setback, but it would be enough to send me hurtling back thinking, okay, that's it, I give up. That's not going to work for me. So that was number 3. Number 4, I would go to bed and feel unfulfilled. My days were busy, so I didn't have loads of time to sit and think. But when it came to going to bed, that was my moment when I sort of really reflected back on the day. And it just felt like I was in a Groundhog Day where nothing ever changed. And I knew it was going to be the same again the next day. I'd wake up in the morning and I didn't have any sense of optimism about the day. I just felt like, here we go again. Get up, do the same thing over and over again. I never had that feeling that anything amazing was going to happen that day. Number 5 was I never had enough money for what I wanted to do. I had a good job, I wasn't poor by any means, but I always had dreams of wanting to do more. I wanted a new kitchen in my house. I wanted an extension. I wanted this. I wanted that. And I compensated by running up a lot of debt. I had a shopping problem. If I didn't have my daughter with me, I would go shopping. Or even if I did have my daughter with me, we'd go to the toy shop and I'd just tell her to pick what she wanted and I'd put it all the costs on a credit card. I had very grand tastes and I wanted to treat my daughter as much as I could because I think in some ways I felt I had to compensate somehow for her not having 2 parents around. But it was also a way of masking, I think, my unhappiness, just going out and running up debt and spending money unnecessarily. So number 6 was I was unsuccessful in love. I just couldn't meet someone who liked me as much as I did them. And I found it really hard to look on the bright side of any romantic situation. So I would go out on dates and I'd go into the date thinking, this is going to be a disaster. So what was I going to manifest? A disaster. Or I would go into a date and have an amazing time and come out and think, well, he's obviously too good to be true. And of course, that became my default belief. And that was what I manifested. He did indeed become too good to be true. And, it all went horribly wrong. So I never really managed to find my success in love. Now, all cards on the table, I'm still single today. But the difference is now I'm happy. If I meet someone, great. But actually what I'm content on doing right now is enjoying my life, my way, and for me. I get up in the morning, I do my makeup, do my hair, and I do that for me. I don't do that for somebody else. And I think that's the difference. I'm now just starting to get myself into alignment with the person I need to be to attract the relationship that I have no doubt will come into my life. So number 7, I never felt really healthy. This is a strange one, and one that I only reflected on recently. And I always felt like I was carrying a weight, both physically and mentally. And at points, that mental strain was so heavy that I almost felt numb. I don't know if you've ever experienced it, where something is so upsetting or so traumatizing that you then become numb to it. And that was the point I got to with my mental health. But yeah, also physically healthy. I always just felt, like I was heavier than I should be. And it's weird because I wasn't overweight, but I felt heavy. I don't know if that makes sense, but that was how I felt back then. Number 8 was the only thing I really felt proud of was my parenting. I knew I was an awesome parent. I just knew it. I could see it in my daughter's face and the times that we spent together and the effort that I put into being a good mum. I just knew I was really proud of my parenting. But on the flip side, I used single parenting as a badge of like dishonor almost, or it was like being in some sad club. If anyone asked me about anything, it was always like, oh, I can't do that. I'm a single parent. So instead, whereas I felt proud, my actions and the stories I told other people were almost anti what I felt, because I felt proud of what I was doing. But I used it as a crutch and a reason not to go after anything else in life. And although I was proud, I just felt like, I guess it goes back to the Groundhog Day thing. I just felt like I was a mum and an employee, and I guess that was really it. So number 9, if I did try to improve my life, then the exact opposite of what I wanted would happen. I just lost my sense of fun. I was very spiritual, but I just felt like my higher self, my spirit guides, angels, whatever you want to call them, and the universe were just letting me down. I was putting the focus on everything else to give me the life I wanted, not realizing that I had to make it happen for myself. I think so many people think that manifesting is about some higher power, some spirit giving you something that either you weren't expecting or you just believed you could have. And that's not the truth. The universe, your higher self, they can help make it happen, but you have to do your part as well. It's the reason why it's called co-creation, because it's not just you, it's not just the universe, it's not just you, it's not just your higher self. It's a combination of everything working together to achieve what they want. So I always just found that the exact opposite of what I wanted was what would happen. So if I wanted to have a second date with someone, then guaranteed he'd ghost me. Or if I decided that I wanted to redecorate something and it would look amazing, guaranteed it would look crap by the time I'd finished. So it was just tiring and I just lost my sense of fun. And the 10th one is these feelings, all these other 9 things that I've taught you about. That was all in private. In public, if you had asked anybody who knew me, they would have said, oh, Katie's happy and confident and successful. But that was just a mask. It was a mask that I put on to show other people. I didn't want to show how unhappy and unfulfilled I was, because inside I was the complete opposite. And that's something that I've noticed with a lot of unaware manifestors. They all tend to wear public masks. that really hide what they're feeling. And I would go to things like wedding receptions, and I would be the life and soul of the party. And I would come home and I'd get into bed alone, and I'd just feel heartbroken that I hadn't got that life. And yet if you'd have seen me an hour or 2 hours earlier, you'd have thought, oh my God, Katie is living her best life right now. But like I say, it was all a mask. So those are the 10 ways that I knew that I was an unaware manifestor, just letting things happen in my life without taking control of the outcomes. So now I want to talk a bit about what changed, because I'm definitely not that person today. So one day I randomly stumbled across a YouTube video, and it was all about the law of attraction. And that is the most powerful, not the most powerful, it's the most well-known universal law. And it is the one that people link the most to manifesting. And I'd always considered myself, as I said, a spiritual person. So immediately I knew that this was shown to me for a reason. I knew there was a reason I'd stumbled across this video about this weird spiritual practice called the law of attraction. And when I started looking into it, on some level, I knew it was what I needed to change my life for the better. I just wasn't quite sure if it was going to work for me. I've always been a massive perfectionist and an all-in kind of person. So as soon as I'd made that connection to the content, I thought, okay, this is something I want to become an expert in, because I really want to manifest my dream life. The time is now. So what followed was hours on YouTube, watching 10-minute tutorials, put my daughter to bed, and I'd sit just for hours and hours watching all these different YouTube tutorials on how to get what you wanted. I tried so many different things, but of course none of it worked, because as I've already said in other episodes, most of the stuff you find on there is just clickbait. It's just trying to get people more followers, so they make these outlandish claims. But I bought into it, and I would spend hours just watching those tutorials. And so, of course, I just had many, many, many failed attempts at manifesting what I wanted. So I just started to realise and really believe that there was so much more to manifesting than people were leading me to believe in the content that I'd seen. Because, as I've said, as the unaware manifestor, all that seemed to happen was I'd get the exact opposite of what I wanted. Even when I was using these YouTube tutorials, I was still getting the exact opposite of what I wanted. And that's because I was still the unaware manifestor. I just didn't realise it at the time. So what I decided to do then is I decided to move away from the YouTube tutorials and thought, actually, do you know what? I need to find manifesting masters and mentors, the people that know more about this stuff than anyone else. So the years that followed, a few years that followed, was really me finding these people, learning from some really amazing but mostly unknown manifesting experts. And they were experts, and they preferred to lead a more private and often reclusive life. It was hard to find them, but I would just listen to podcasts and read books and see these names of people, and then I would just hunt them down and find anything I could to learn from them. And I'm so glad I did, because it was that changed my relationship with manifesting forever. And it just completely changed my life. Once I understood really what manifesting was about, that is when the magic happened in my life. And I say magic, I don't mean magic as in spells. I mean magic as in transformative. I remember that the first big thing that I manifested was a massive lump sum of money, and that enabled me to start my business. But here's the thing, so many people are told, as I've just said, that manifesting is somehow magical. You decide to have it, you believe it, and then it appears. But that's not so. This massive lump sum of money that I got was phenomenal, but it came about because I was made redundant from my job. And I was starting out on my manifesting journey then, and it did knock my confidence a bit, because I thought, oh my God, I'm getting this money, but I'm losing my job. But what I chose to do was go with it and trust the process. And in actual fact, it was what needed to happen to help me manifest the life I have today. So once I'd had that big manifesting result, I just wanted to really understand how I'd made it happen. I wanted to be able to repeat the process and then do it over and over again in other areas of my life. It wasn't accidental, as I came to learn, but I kind of did a lot of it subconsciously. But I wanted to know how did I make that happen? What was the process steps that I took to manifest this massive lump sum of money? So I used all my newfound knowledge and the experiences, and there was a lot of head scratching and thinking time to develop the steps to what I believed was how I'd manifested what I wanted. And that was how my Create manifesting method was born, really. I guess you could say that the Create method, it's the culmination really of me failing and experimenting my way to success. And where this method is now is not where it started. I had to dig really deep. I had to practice. I had to rinse and repeat to truly identify all those precise steps that have to be taken to manifest anything that I want. And I also came up against a lot of inconsistencies early on. So I had to keep redeveloping the method so that it worked for everything, because what I found initially was I could manifest something amazing in business, but I couldn't manifest, I don't know, something in my house or maybe a sense of happiness every single day. So I was finding there was a lot of inconsistencies early on. So you might find that as well in your own life. You might be slightly moved away from the unaware manifestor, but you still might be finding that you can manifest something amazing in one area of life, but the other area of life might be a bit shit. So that's exactly where I was. So I wanted the Create method to really work regardless of what it was. So after a few years of this back and forth and experimentation, I came up with the Create method that I have today. And it's this exact process that really helped me transform from being an unaware manifestor, where I accidentally manifested everything I didn't want, to becoming my new identity of an intentional creator, where I manifest exactly what I want every single time. So once I'd done this, the next step was for me to see if Create worked for other people too. And that was really scary. It was like putting my baby out into the world to be judged. But luckily my friends agreed to be my guinea pigs, and I always know that they're going to be honest. So my friends and actually my sister all agreed to be my guinea pigs and start testing my methodologies and my theories, really just to see if it made a difference in their life. And this time was really brilliant for me because they gave it to me straight. Like they allowed me to see the final refinements that I needed to make to the process. And my guinea pig clan went on to manifest money, build successful businesses, gorgeous relationships, and they had way more confidence, feelings of self-worth, and just general happiness using Create. And that was an incredibly proud moment for me because I'd been on this massive, without sounding cheesy, but I had been on a massive journey, and the difference was so amazing in my life. But I always thought, is it going to work for other people too? Or is this just something that's for me? So to see other people work with it successfully was just phenomenal. And that really brings me up to today, where I'm now on a mission to reach as many people as I can who want to learn the steps in the Create method. You know, I created an academy where people can learn through a series of video training and live coaching how to make it work for them too. I transformed away from the unaware manifestor by taking control and taking responsibility for my manifesting outcomes, and I became the intentional creator. And it now feels like a life mission for me to help others to do the same. So you may be thinking, this sounds good, but it sounds like this could help more people than just singles or solo parents. So why am I driven to be loud and proud about helping them and not just everyone? So the truth is, Create does work for everyone. It's not an exclusive thing for singles or solo parents, but I know just how difficult it is to try and manifest a different life when you're a singleton or a solo parent. And I just always feel like back then I was facing an uphill battle, as a single mum. Then when my daughter moved away, I was then an empty nester, and life was just hard, It always felt more difficult as a single parent when I was manifesting, because the loneliness could be crippling. And I think manifesting is hard anyway, but when you do it all on your own, it's 10 times harder because you don't have a partner to bounce ideas off of or to talk through your worries or to help keep you positive. You just have to go it alone. So I think that it is harder. Well, I know it's harder because I've lived that life. But I also hated the society stereotypes about being single or a solo parent, because I felt like, well, I do feel like that was partly what held me back. Seeing how the media and TV and film portrayed single parents, I know that it held me back. I knew that single parents could be more than just parents. And so I wanted to break that stigma of what it means to be a single parent or to be just single without children, Oh, poor you, don't you get lonely? Or, no, you can't do that and be a parent. Or, oh, you must be poor. You must have to take all the crappy jobs because you're a single parent. Those are things that were actually said to me. And there's also this massive thing out there in society that says if you're single, you must be lonely and sad all the time, or you're the odd one out. Like, oh, you're on your own. Oh, are you not trying to meet someone? Oh, how do you feel about being single? Like it's some sort of, I don't know, leprosy or something. And I meet so many people that are embarrassed about being single, and they don't feel fulfilled until they have a partner, or at least that's what they're told they should feel, that you're only fulfilled in life when you have a partner, 2.4 kids, perfect 9-to-5 job, or, amazing business. And actually the magic in finding a partner is about being fulfilled as a person on your own. And that's what I'm going through right now in my life. And that's what drives me. I want to break that single stigma and be that side-by-side support to help singles and solo parents manifest the shit out of life, really. Does it mean I won't help people in loving relationships? No, of course not. I will help everybody who wants to manifest something better. But I just want to be really loud about the fact that what I do is with those people who are alone in mind. And I guess that brings me on nicely to the change that I want to see in the world, which is breaking that single stigma that says you can't be financially abundant or successful in business as a single parent. That stigma that says if you're single, you must be sad, you must be lonely, you're putting your life on hold until you meet the one. I will never stop putting stuff out there that helps singles and solo parents to effectively and consistently manifest the life of their dreams right now, no matter what those dreams are, and no matter what single circumstances they're in. They don't have to wait for another 10 years like I did. This can all be done now. Together as a community of strong single people and solo parents, I truly believe that we can pave a brighter way for the singles of the future and just remove that single stigma forever. That's my intention. So that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've enjoyed listening, I'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe and leave a review, because it really does help me to reach more people. I've left some links in the show notes so you can connect with me, or you can grab one of my manifesting resources. Until next week, sending you lots of love, light, and manifesting vibes.